What's up, y'all? I wanted to come to you guys with an off-grid recipe. So I've made these oyster mushrooms a few times since I've been out here and shared them with the tribe, and everybody loved it. So I have been wanting to do some YouTube tutorials on how to make some recipes and cook up some good vegan meals, and I decided to have my oyster mushrooms be the first recipe video I'm gonna do. So I have these oyster mushrooms here. They are not the best looking oyster mushrooms. They are kind of hard to come around in general. Especially out here. We are actually in the process of growing our own oyster mushrooms out here. It takes about 2 weeks from grow to harvest, so I'm at week like almost 1. But for now, we're going to use these that I got at the local supermarket, which I was actually grateful to find them out here because I kind of wrote off certain things like oyster mushrooms and burro bananas and all that good stuff that I was used to back in Georgia. But luckily, continuous universal blessings, we found Safeway, and they have oyster mushrooms, burro bananas, key limes, all those things to keep me up with my diet and what I'm used to eating and cooking. So anytime I crave chicken or anything, I fry up some oyster mushrooms, season them up good, batter them up very well, and that always, gets the edge off for sure. So for me, the most important thing with vegan food, or any food for that matter, is the spices, is the seasoning, it's the herbs that you use to bring the food alive. Even eating the chicken wing with no seasoning is not good. So it's really important with vegan food, because I think the hardest transition with vegan food is textures. So you certainly have to spruce up the spices to make the food more enticing. I'm going to show you what spices I use for my fried oyster mushroom recipe. For the wet batter, I use chickpea flour, and with my spices, I'm adding a little bit of unsweetened almond milk to make a wet batter. So I use that. And for my dry batter, I use spelt flour with herbs and spices. Okay guys, so for my frying, I use grapeseed oil. You can also use avocado oil. I just actually found out recently through research and the computers that we carry in our pockets all the time that avocado oil is actually the best oil to fry in. So I'm going to finish my grapeseed oil first, and I will be beginning to transition to avocado oil for frying for now while I can, just because I like to always, go for the better alternative with all things in life, especially what I put in my body, Yeah. Okay guys, so I'm gonna start with a tablespoon of all of my spices that I showed you previously. So I'm starting off with my wet batter, and I am gonna start off with putting some all-purpose seasoning in there, onion salt, onion powder, garlic powder. For the smoked paprika, I'm going to use a teaspoon of Himalayan salt, a teaspoon of black horse pepper. Here guys, I have my mushrooms in the sink. I've just rinsed them off, and I'm going to do a light coating of salt and pepper on top of them. Just very light, just a little sprinkle. So for my wet batter, guys, I'm going to use this unsweetened almond milk by Califia Farms, not sponsored. And as far as the measuring goes, so for me, with the wet batter, I just pour and stir, until I get a consistency that isn't thick but isn't runny as well. I'm kind of in between. So stay tuned here. Let me show you. I usually pour and stir, but I need to get some holders for my phone. See, that's too thick, so I'm going to add some more. Alright guys, so here is my mixture after stirring it up for a few manually. You can see the drip. So now I'm going to go ahead and put my mushrooms in the bowl and let them soak for 15 minutes in the wet batter while I prepare the dry batter. I'm just gonna stir them around and give them a nice coat. Not do it so hard because these mushrooms are delicate. Okay, so I am going to let my oyster mushrooms soak in this wet batter for about 15 minutes or so. Okay, so we have our spelt flour here in this bowl that I took a fork to break down the little packed up balls that were in here. And now I'm going to add the spices that I use in the wet batter, but in the dry batter I'm also going to use the herbs that I use. I'm going to use a tablespoon of parsley flakes, a tablespoon of thyme, use a half a tablespoon of sage, use a half a tablespoon of smoked paprika, a tablespoon of garlic powder, a tablespoon of garlic salt, 2 tablespoons of all-purpose, this up. A good even coat through here. Okay y'all, so I fried cauliflower the other day, so I'm just gonna reuse this oil. I just turned the stove on, so I'm waiting for it to heat, and we're gonna dip our mushrooms and get the frying. And that usually does it for me, guys. I usually get a really good coating when I just let it sit for 15 minutes and do from wet to dry. Some people double dip. I don't seem to have to double dip. Now I'm just evenly coating it with my dry batter, just to make sure we get all of the dry batter all over my mushrooms. So now it's time to transfer these lovely coated mushrooms. And from here, guys, you'll just flip them over so you can get them nice and crispy on both sides, like you would do if you were cooking some sort of meat. The good news is that because it is plant-based, you don't have to worry about undercooking it on the inside and developing some type of ailment for it not being cooked fully, because they're just mushrooms. Alright guys, so here are the results of the fried oyster mushrooms. Nice and golden brown, ready to be served. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you try the recipe and let me know how it goes. Till next time.